Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Facing the Music with Terry Oldfield. My name is John Valdivia, producer at idesound.com. This series, curated from candid conversations, will introduce a return to the mystery and wonder of existence, as well as our necessity to confront ourselves. We shall also feature selected pieces from Terry's extensive musical anthology. In this special episode, Terry provides commentary on his first solo composition, Spiral, a musical offspring of all of his interests and studies, as well as the beginning of his career as a composer. Welcome to Facing the Music.
Yeah, I just had this urgent feeling that I needed to give myself the opportunity to see if I could come up with something. And it just happened to coincide with this inspiration I had around trying to correlate the I Ching, which is the Chinese Book of Changes, with music and numbers and geometry. I don't know where this interest came from, but it just came out of the blue. I knew it had to be based on that because I didn't really have any other inspiration at the time. But I do remember one morning just coming up with this call. A bit like breathing. Using a kind of Gregorian sound, with chanting. And that to me is like a calling. But it was an emotional roller coaster. I remember when that first call with those Gregorian sort of voices, I really felt that's it. That's the key to it. Right, so the music is done. It's finished. I now have my foot on the path. To get the foot on the path, you have to have that connection made. Once that connection is made, the music is written. It's already performed, it's already composed and recorded. You just have to walk the path, you see. Your foot is already there. But to get the foot on the path is the hardest. That first step. That's it. That's the key to everything. You get the major seventh chord. I'm not alone in saying that this is the yearning chord, but it's just a semitone short. It's going, just wants to get to this. I was working with a guy called Nigel Richmond, who was an inventor in Gloucestershire, near the River Severn. He had written a book on the I Ching, and I became very interested in that, and we decided to work together to see if we could create a way of linking numbers and music and the I Ching. And so we built this gong, because he had a workshop and he cut all these bits of metal out, and we made up this kind of thing, a bit like a windmill, based on a diagram I'd been working on, which was to do with the chromatic scale in music. In the center was a square, which was C sharp, E, G, and B flat, which is, it's equidistant notes with a tone and a half between each. Now, in the 12 notes of the chromatic scale, there are 4 of these scales. Like if you draw a cross with 2 parallel lines and 2 parallel lines, the square in the center is that scale. And then you have 2 more squares, which are the other 2 scales. Also, interlocked around the outside circle of this cross within the circle are major and minor chords interlocked. So you've got the major and the minor and the major and the minor all interlocked in it, and that made up the main chord sequence of the piece. And it had that feeling of accelerating into nowhere. It was going, but it was going, and it was going, and it was going, but it was not getting anywhere because it's on a spiral, you see. The spiral is infinite in both directions. It's like the background energy that's always there, moving, moving, moving. I was in a very insecure situation in a material sense. I mean, I had no money. It was very difficult. And I couldn't see a way of earning a living. But I just thought, I'm going to give this a shot. And actually, it didn't work. It was my experience that it didn't work, that I'd failed. And I failed. I've sent off all the demos. I sat around for a few weeks and not one single response. So I thought, all right, I've given it my best shot. I've failed. I'm going to go and I'm going to go back to Hydra because I feel comfortable there. I'm going to just carry on whitewashing walls and see what happens. But I gave up, you see, in a sense. This having no investment anymore, it suddenly seems to turn a key. I don't know. As long as you've given it your best shot, and then you give up. It's very, very subtle, and that's where a lot of people fall short, I feel, on the spiritual path. Have you really given it your all before you give up? I mean, have you really? Or have you just been manipulating methods and things because you're waiting for some reward for your efforts, And who is it that's going to get these rewards? It's the very thing that is getting in the way, you see. And it works in every area, whether it's career or relationships or, enlightenment, whatever. It's the same principle of getting out of the way to allow the universe to come in and have its way. And the universe, once it has a conduit, will flow through and use whatever opportunities are available through that emptiness. The whole piece has that kind of yearning quality, which is actually akin to Celtic music as well, which has that same kind of yearning feeling. And that's why a lot of people responded. There was a kind of resonance there. There's a yearning to return or to reach that point in the spiral where you double the vibration and you reach a higher state of consciousness or a higher awareness of what's going on. I'm not exaggerating to say that the whole of that piece, Spiral, was based upon that diagram. It's not really an explanation, it's just a rather a nebulous way of describing where my inspiration came from. And it's immensely complicated, but looks pretty simple on paper. When I showed it to Keith Critchlow, who was the sacred geometry guy, I remember his reaction. He almost, he did a double take, like that, as though he recognized something in it. And he immediately decided, Terry, this is an archetype. You've shared this with me. Now I have to share something with you. And he showed me on a beer mat how to square the circle, which is like the geometer's secret. He showed me how to do that with numbers. And he said, there you go, there's a fair exchange there. You've given me something, I've given you something back. And then we carried on drinking our Guinness. It's never been recorded properly. We're talking about razor blades and quarter-inch tape, you know. You record 8 tracks of strings and you bounce them onto 2. You record another 6 and bounce them back onto another 2. It's the sort of thing that would make a very, very interesting orchestral score. I'd love to see that. Somebody like Robin Smith might do it one day. It's like that rising feeling, but it never could go on rising because it goes beyond the range of the human ear. You see, we have to draw a circle around a point in the spiral, and that's what creates the yin-yang symbol. Because as the spiral goes around, you create a circle of perception, which is the limitation we place upon that rising and falling. And that's the area in which we tend to focus. So I called that the circle of perception. The yang and the yin are very much akin to the 1 and the 0 with the whole advent of the new technology based around those numbers. You know, the coding that's happening at the moment, you know, even in the supercomputers, is still limited to the yang and the yin, the 0 and the 1. If you just take that as the be-all and end-all of everything, you're not allowing the feeling body to have any part in the whole thing. What I find interesting about Spiral is that it was the launching pad for my career. And in a sense, having been told by probably the world's leading expert on sacred geometry that it was an archetype I had come across, it was almost like a sort of magic circle, that to explore the depths of that, something had to happen, because everything worked in every direction. Every 4 numbers in every direction, round the circle, across the center, added up to 26. It felt like a magical key. And key is a good word because it's musical. I remember having a conversation with my brother about how you play a note on any instrument. You can put your feeling into it, or you can just go boom, like that. It's the connection between the head and the heart that is the key to everything. I mean, you just heart, forget it. Because we live in a world of polarity, the human mind is designed to function in this world. And unless we allow this background to have its place, the human heart cannot function in this world. There's a lot of casualties where the head has completely dominated, and there's been no room for the feelings to be expressed. And without that connection, the road leads to insanity, because the experience needs to be through this human body, and this is in the tactile and through the emotional connections with our response to everything. To actually get any kind of magic happening, I've got to sort of, shake my head and just get out of my head completely, and just play. And I don't know how I did it. Is the way is the only way I can describe it. If I listen back and I think that's it, that's got it. But if I listen back and it's not there, I just say I just immediately delete it. I see I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for, to fulfill a contract. I'm doing it because I have no reason to do it other than I like doing it. See? And that's the reason to do anything. And if the universe comes in and pays you for it, that's always a bonus.